Good afternoon and welcome to the FFY 2026 IDA grant application process. This afternoon, we're going to discuss the due date for your final grant application, the documents that are part of the grant package, some important reminders and updates, instructions related to the application template, and next steps. The final application is due to OSEP next week, Wednesday, May 20th. At the time that we made the application materials available, we did not have the allocation information, so you were required to begin your public participation process using your FFY 2025 allocation information in Section 3 of your application template. By now, you should have received an email dated May 6 from Al Jones, one of our Associate Division Directors, that provided the 611 and 619 allocation tables for Part B, as well as the file for the interactive spreadsheet, and the Part C allocation table. You should have populated the FFY 2026 Section 3 for your application document. So please be sure and look at the footer of your application, ensure that it says FFY 2026. And you should have also reposted your allocation information with your other application materials on your website. However, you did not have to restart the public participation time clock. Just as a reminder, the public participation period for the application is 60 days. And during that 60-day time period, you should have allowed at least 30 days for comments to be made. And for our Part C programs that may have been revising a policy or procedure, or may have been creating a new policy, you should have had that posted with your application and should have conducted hearings during the public participation process to solicit input. With the grant package materials, you were given the following: the grant memo, which contains some important updates and information related to FFY 2026, instructions for the application template, the application template itself, and then references to supporting documents. For Part B, the package contained an attachment, which was the year of age cohort, which was the document that specified the age range for FAPE in every state. And for Part C in the application memo, there was a link to policy checklists. So these are reference documents that Part C programs can use when making revisions to policies and procedures. Just as a reminder, the Build America, Buy America Act requirement still exists, and this is detailed within the application memo. And this is the requirement that says if you're using federal IDA funds for construction or broadband infrastructure activities, you have to source your materials from companies in the U.S. Please read the application memo regarding this requirement for important information, particularly for waivers associated with Build America, Buy America. Also, in the application memo, you see information related to GEPA Section 427. So this is a requirement that you have to ensure equitable access to IDEA and identify those barriers inhibiting access and address those barriers. In the past, we collected this information about your activities to support GEPA Section 427, and it was detailed on a form. However, OSEP is no longer collecting a form for this requirement, and instead, we're asking you to give a response in your application template to denote that you comply with GEPA Section 427. In the Part B application template, a new item has been added to Section 2A. So there's now a Section 2A number 26, where you give a yes or no response to assure that you comply with GEPA. And in the Part C document, there's historically been a GEPA response item, and that's Section 2A12. All states submitted GEPA forms. So as far as OSEP is concerned, all states have GEPA documents on file, and all states can say yes to this requirement. However, if you find that your state no longer is meeting the GEPA Section 427 requirement and a no response is necessary, please contact your OSEP state lead. There's another change that's documented in the application memo that applies to Part B only, and that's related to significant disproportionality. In the past, OSEP used The Part B application template is the vehicle to collect information from states on significant disproportionality. For FFY 2026, OSEP is no longer using a Part B grant application for this purpose. If you have questions about significant disproportionality, please contact your OSEP state lead. In addition, both Part B and Part C programs should read the application memo and look at the section entitled Civil Rights Requirements, which is a new section. That area describes allowable uses of federal funds consistent with federal laws and executive orders. And if you have any questions about it, please reach out to your OSEP state lead. Again, this year, the state incentive grant will be available for those Part C programs that have an extended Part C option policy on file with the agency. If you have an interest in receiving a state incentive grant this year, please let us know with your grant application. You can specify that in the cover letter with the grant application. Or if you're a program that would like to explore pursuing the extended Part C option, please let us know that as well. We would like that information with your grant application when it comes in next week on May 20th. One exciting thing that we'd like to share this year is related to language in the 2026 appropriations for IDEA, which allows for the use of federal IDEA Part C funds to support pregnant women who are expecting a child with a disability. This optional child find option is something where OSEP will provide additional guidance. And so if you already know that you think you would pursue this option, you can let us know in the cover letter with your grant application. And you can also specify in Section 3 of your document how much funds you anticipate using for this purpose. If, however, you need more time to give consideration to this, you have any time during FFY 2026 to update Section 3 to denote that you're going to use your part of your IDA Part C funds for this optional child find process. Additional information will be shared with guidance documents from OSEP and also at the OSEP Leadership Conference. If you have any questions about child find, you can send those questions in to the same email address where you will send your application materials. Now for our Part B programs, we just want to remind you that all state educational agencies are required to adopt the National Instructional Materials Accessibility Standards to ensure you can provide accessible instructional materials to students who are eligible for these resources, which includes students who are blind or visually impaired, and also students who have print or physical disabilities that prevent them from using regular print materials. The National Instructional Materials Access Center was created to support states in meeting this requirement. And on the application template itself for Part B, question 23, there's a response item where states can inform OSEP if they coordinate with the National Instructional Materials Access Center, or NIMAC. States that choose to coordinate with NIMAC must require publishers to send NIMAS files to NIMAC as part of any print instructional materials adoption contract or purchase agreement. There's a response item on the application template for states that do not coordinate with NIMAC. However, those states still are required to adopt the National Instructional Materials Accessibility Standards. If there are any questions about this, please reach out to your OSEP state lead. Now, with the application templates, there's some consistency across Part B and Part C documents in that Section 1 is where it tells us if you're applying for a full or conditional approval. Remember, full approval means that you don't have any no responses in Section 2 of your document. So you're able to assure that you have all policies and procedures in place. However, a conditional approval request means that you have a no response to at least one item in Section 2 to denote that you cannot make an assurance at this time or you don't have a particular policy or procedure in place. Section 2 for Part B has yes or no responses. For Part C, The yes column has some additional response items where you can tell us if a policy is new, revised, or on file. And then for both programs, section 3 is the use of funds section. So for part B, you get that interactive spreadsheet with section 3. You tell us how you solicited LEA input on that interactive spreadsheet. Whereas for part C, you give us the completion of several tables that comprise the use of funds section. With the Part B document, you have Section 4 for state administration and Section 5, maintenance of state financial support. Whereas for Part C, Section 4, system of payments and indirect costs. Few reminders. Remember that your OSEP State Lead is a resource as well as OSEP-funded TA centers. Please inform OSEP as soon as possible if there's been any change in your state leadership. So if there's a new Part C coordinator or state director, new lead agency director or chief state school officer, or if your program is going to undergo lead agency changes and you have not informed OSEP of those changes. It's very important that we have this information so we can ensure that correspondence that's sent to your state related to the grant application has the correct addressee. Also, please reference the grant memos and the instructions that were part of the grant package for important information that I shared today. Remember, when you're submitting your final application, we no longer need hard copy grant applications. So the days are gone when you need to mail an application to us. Everything now comes into us through email. So it has to be from a state government email address with a PDF of the application. And it should have an electronic signature, which could be a PDF signature, or you can have a hard copy signature and send us the scanned document that shows that hard copy signature. We may engage in a signature verification process if we're unable to read the signature or identify who the official is that signed the document. There's more information about these submission instructions in your grant memo. As always, if you have questions, reach out to your OSEP State Lead. Thank you.